So we're talking about NextRequest, which are public records requests. I'm Tamara, Manik-Perlman, and I'm the CEO. I founded the company along with a couple other people, including Andy Hull, who's out in North Carolina, who's our CTO, and my colleague, Reed Gibbs. He has a beard now, but he looks basically like that, so if you see him around, you can talk to him about this. We are a startup that went through the incubator program at Code for America this past year, and we actually have been working on developing and productizing a couple of projects that came out of the fellowship, including City Voice and Promptly. And we've also been doing some work on bringing the sort of innovative, user-driven model to a number of other government projects, so I couldn't resist the chance to share that with you guys. So if you have government projects outside of the awesome products you're seeing tonight, definitely come talk to us. But I'm really here to talk to you about NextRequest, which is a platform for open public records. And, oh, this is very pale, but you might recognize some of the terms on this screen, including FOIA, public information, sunshine laws. These are all terms that have been used to describe public records requests when a member of the public is asking for information from a government agency. And this is a problem that we decided to tackle because it's one of the most confusing and costly problems that governments face. And it's a problem faced by every government agency, not just cities, but also counties, school districts, ports, and so on. I said that it's costly. So for each request, on average, it takes about $400 to respond to that citizen request in terms of staff time and resources. But that can actually go much higher. So for instance, in the city of Yakima, Washington, they costed it out and realized that they were spending $500,000 a year to respond to 400 requests. So that's an average of about $1,200 per request. Not every city spends this much, but it can add up really fast. And one of the biggest problems is that cities often don't even know how much they're spending because this is a process that's distributed across agencies, across departments, and is really decentralized. We've found that in different cities, people are tracking this through sticky notes, through printing out emails or PDF request forms, or if they're super sophisticated, they might have an Excel spreadsheet or even a very magical web form. So this is a really chaotic process. But even more than the chaos are the costs. So we talked a little bit about staff time, but there's also significant legal risk in terms of non-compliance with these state laws, as well as the costs in the court of public opinion when people really feel that the government isn't serving them and is being untransparent and unforthcoming. And you can imagine, as sort of confusing as things are within a city with people shuffling paper around, it's even more confusing on the part of the public. They don't necessarily know where they should submit their request, who it should go to, how to do it, and once they've submitted it, what the status of that request is. Now, we've seen web technologies be brought to bear on all kinds of civic projects, some of which are being talked about tonight, but some of which are things like open data portals or 311 request tracking. And there was really no reason that these technologies couldn't also be used on the public records request process. So during last year's fellowship, the team in Oakland built a fantastic site called Record Track that was implemented in Oakland. And to date, it's processed a little bit over 6,000 requests from the public, and it exemplifies a number of best practices. I swear it does. So there are 6,000 requests. One of the key features of the public requests portal is that it's public. All of the requests are open and available to be seen online. So this is an example of that. People can see all of the requests that have been made, and there are a couple of benefits about this. The first is it increases transparency, so people know what's going on. There's operational transparency, so people see the fact that government is actually working for them. They don't sort of submit a request and wait a long time and wonder what's happening. Additionally, it reduces duplication. So often government is processing requests that have already been submitted, and there's no reason to do that. It's a waste of everyone's time. We can also do simple things using web technologies like keyword detection. So in the case of the city of Oakland, they're getting a lot of requests, about 100 a year, for birth certificates. But once Record Track was implemented, they just flashed a really quick warning that said, hey, listen, the city of Oakland doesn't have these requests. You need to contact Alameda County. And those requests were down from about 100 to 12 in the past year, so that was cut by 90%. So if you're looking at the $400 figure, that's tens of thousands of dollars that were saved. The other thing is smart routing. You don't actually have to have a person to do each of these jobs. So in the case of Oakland, you ask the user to type in a quick keyword like permit, you bring up a list of agencies and documents they might be interested in, and then you automatically route that to the right person. Similarly, for workflows within the city, you can save time. So a government staff member who's looking to respond to a request simply clicks the close request button, selects the reasons why they're closing the request, and then the information from the California statute is automatically populated. What was taking minutes, sometimes hours of time, is reduced to mere seconds or tens of seconds. And finally, there's data analysis. So once you're collecting all of this in a machine-readable format, you can process this information and understand actually what's going on. You can get a sense of the scope of the problem. So in Oakland, they were able to track the average response time for city departments, as well as the departments that are receiving the most requests. And there are two things you can do with this kind of data. The first is to improve compliance, to ensure that all departments are responding to requests, because it's now trackable. And the other is to inform things like open data portals. So if you can see which data sets are being requested most frequently, you can then make those open by default and save staff time. So I originally mentioned that Yakima, Washington was spending about $1,200 per request. Actually, it's really exciting. About a month ago, they implemented their own version of Record Track. So we've been learning from them, and we've been learning from the experiences in Oakland. And we've moved Record Track into a hosted public records portal called NextRequest. And that's something that Postcode's been working on for the past couple months, and that we'd really invite any of you. I saw there were some hands for government employees in the room. We'd invite you to try that out. We found that we want to make this something that's accessible to cities of all sizes, from the largest to the smallest cities. And as Ron mentioned, one of the characteristics of that in this space is often offering a cloud-hosted solution. So if you want to learn more about NextRequest, you can go to that URL or talk to me or my colleague Reed after the session.